Okay. Can everybody hear me? That's on Zoom. Got Ryder, Jesse, Avery, Matt. Okay, so interestingly enough, you guys, um, we have some classroom certifications happening, but Randy is out and now I just lost you. Oh, there we are. It's like I just lost all my people. Brandy is out and so is Deanne. She's not feeling well. So we are trying to shuffle who's doing all the things in here. So I apologize for that. That was a little bit crazy, trying to get everything ready to go. I am going to kind of talk to you guys a little bit about how to book re-enrollments from 1 to 1:30, and then we're going to talk about enrolling and creating the need for health products for the second half. So I'm going to try to see, there we go. Okay. Okay, so the first thing that we want to do is talk about what we do whenever we're going to book an enrollment. And my apologies. I'm trying to see your faces at the same time, but I can't for some reason do that. Hi, Reggie.
Hi.
Oh, there we go. I broke it. It was like, I broke it. I can't see all the things. Fine. I'm just off my game today. Everybody's fine. Okay, so depending on what level you're at and how long you've been here, you guys, you may be able to view your AD's enrollment tracker. And when they pull these up, we do it by month. And the information that we're given is, like, for instance, we're going to use this one as our example. This is the name of the business as well as Norris. This is our franchise number, how much AP is currently on the books. It'll say annual versus mid, right? So that you can tell which kind of conversation you're going to be having. It's going to tell you the open enrollment period. It's going to tell you the last known contact person. Now, this is my case, so I know that this is incorrect. She no longer works there. So whenever you have an AD that knows that, or like I could highlight it and say, hey, we know that this is going to be a situation here. Phone number for them to contact, and then where it's located. Okay. It may be assigned to an AD that necessarily doesn't belong to. So what that means, because we have agent numbers, you guys know, you have a 2-digit agency number. When I was an agent and an SA, I was number 06. And then whenever I moved to being an AD, I became number 92. So all of my 06 numbers and all my cases went to actually Anthony has my number now. So like when you're assigned a number and you're doing your section 125s, it's assigned to your agency number, that 2-digit. When you either get promoted or somebody leaves, those agency numbers rotate through. So just keep that in mind. Just because it says my name on here doesn't mean that I was the one who closed it. It doesn't mean that it necessarily belongs with me. It could have just been assigned in that hierarchy. Does that make sense? Hopefully, though, we're able to see some of that information whenever we're pulling it up in Epic. Now, right now, Epic's weird. We all know that. So if you're looking for more information like who last enrolled it, who closed it, you do kind of want to know some of that information when you get ready to call so that you can mention that. My team especially has been having some experience where they're like, oh, well, we only work with Terry, right? With the prevalence of Knuckles agencies in our areas, we are trying to teach our franchises to only work with our agencies. So we're teaching them like, hey, don't book with anybody else unless you've talked to me first. Like I've had some that Hunter has tried to book and he's like, they won't book with anybody except for you. And I'm like, that's no problem. Let me call them and it'll be fine, because they just want to know that we're all connected, right? Because just because we work for Liberty National doesn't mean we're from the same agency. Who are you looking for? I know they're with Terry. I told her to run through the rubric really fast and then get in there for training. You bet. Okay, so if you need to, you can look that up here in the account. We have Wells Norris here, so that I can see that. You can see all the information if it's owned by you or if it's shared with you, but we can see the decision maker, and I know her payroll lady has changed. Again, we've got the phone number, we've got our enrollment period here, so we know that we're active and we don't need a change of enrollment. It is their mid-year. Now at this one, we check in frequently because they have a high turnover. So we want to make sure that we're checking in every 6 months, but we'll talk about that conversation. Here's our address. And then you can also see who is on the plan and who is potentially gone. Okay. In Epic as an AD, you can also see applications. So you can see who was last there. So Reggie was our last one that was there, right? Writing policy in April. Okay. And so whenever I call, I can actually mention that and say, hey, I work with Reggie. I know we were there in April. We're just touching base. We want to make sure that everything's good. Okay. When we are doing an enrollment and we're calling to set up a re-enrollment, there are scripts. This is my script that I use for my team. I believe this is Terry's that she uses for her team. Very, very similar. Okay. The very first thing that you want to do whenever you're calling to set up an enrollment is to let them know that you are calling customer service wise. Okay. You want to ask for the contact name. Again, that could be the decision maker or it could be the payroll person. It would be listed on the Section 125 sheet, detail sheet of the account, and it should also be in the tracker here of who we're asking for. When you're asking for them, you want to make sure that if it's a new person, we send that information up to the QM so that they can update that in Epic. Okay. Usually you want to include the franchise number because sometimes we have similar named businesses. Okay. So you're going to introduce yourself. You're going to say, hey, my name's Diana. I'm with Liberty National. I was calling just to check in with you guys. How are you doing today? Great, fine, blah, blah, blah. One of the things we like to do is we like to talk to everybody every 6 months or so, just to double check, are there any billing issues? Are there any problems happening? Any claims I need to file? The thing you want to do here is if there's a billing issue or if there's a claim to be filed, you want to stop and do that. Okay. You do not want to proceed if there's billing issues, if there's claims. Okay. If there's claims, that's fine because you were like, okay, no problem. I want to come in and try to talk to that person about how I can file a claim. But if there's billing issues, you don't want to be like, oh, wow, it's been wrong on your bill for 2 months. And then bummer, you're mad about it. I'm just going to keep proceeding and ask you to come in and write more business, right? You don't want to do that. You want to stop and fix that. Okay. If there's no problems, which is normally what happens, awesome. Usually no news is good news, but we want to make sure that we care about you, like let you know. The reason that I'm calling you is that because when I was looking up your account to make this call, I noticed that it's time for your re-enrollment. Did anybody else call you? The reason that we're asking that is because if Reggie already called, but he didn't mark it in my tracker, and he's like, oh yeah, Reggie called earlier today. Okay, perfect. No problem. So you guys got that set up? Great. No, nobody's talked to you. Okay, perfect. Well, I'm glad that I can get you set up with that. Okay. The reason I'm calling is, and then we're going to talk about that. At a mid, you want to make sure that you're available to their new employees. Okay. This is not the time that they go in and they can cancel their policies. It's not really the time that they can make a lot of changes. If they missed us during their annual enrollment, we want to get them set up on their no cost benefits. And if they were brand new at the annual enrollment, this is the time we can get them. It's at mid. Okay. So asking to speak with their new employees is the point of a mid. Now, at an annual, you have to speak with everybody. Sometimes that's a tricky conversation. You want to be able to say, um, based on the IRS stipulations, we need to speak with everybody on an annual basis. Now, that's only something I'm going to pull out if they're pushing back, like, oh, well, we don't want to see you this year or whatever. You want to re-explain why we see them every year. Okay, remember, everybody's entitled to those no cost benefits, and that's on an annual basis, but we have to renew those on an annual basis. So that means I need to come in and see everybody so I can do that. Everybody's entitled to those and they are going to lapse. So even if they don't want to participate in anything else, we want to make sure that we get those set up. Okay. If this is a $0 AP case, which we do have those to call, or they haven't let us in a long time, you're going to have to do a lot more rapport building. And I highly recommend doing that in person as opposed to over a phone call, because it's very easy to hang up. It's very easy to not follow through and set it up. We have lots and lots of excuses, when in reality, you could be going in person whenever it's close to your route. Okay. So then after you've explained why they need to be in there, then you need to figure out what date works for you. Okay. So, hey, I'm looking at my calendar and it looks like the week of the 17th would be great. Now, Mondays are really pretty rough for me. What's your bad days? What do we want to avoid? Okay. We want to book sooner rather than later. You want to have that 4-week forecast so that you know what's coming up. Okay. And then you want to make sure that you've got those re-enrollments set up. You don't want to book so many re-enrollments for yourself that that's all you're doing, because then you don't have any new cases, right? New cases are where the money's at. And you want to be able to prospect around it, but also re-enrollments, they deserve service. So we want to make sure that we're booking that out so we have enough time. Okay. Then you want to talk to them about what time their day starts. If they're certain industries, they want you there at a specific time. If it's plumbing and they're going to be all in this like going out into the field to do their service calls, you're not going to start at 10:30, right? They're going to be gone. So you need to have a conversation with them. And then this is also what I recommend for my team, is to look up where that address is, because if it's 3.5 hours away, you're going to want to make sure that you are providing enough time for yourself if they're flexible on that timing. Okay. You also need to talk about the number of employees, because if you decide, if they're saying, oh, well, you can meet with them over their lunch break and there's 30 employees, there's no way you can enroll 30 employees in an hour, right? It's just impossible. Even if you had 3 or 4 people there, it's still going to be very, very difficult to get that done. So you need to have that conversation with your DM and say, like, okay, what's going on? Schools are a little bit different, right? So for me, whenever I'm going to a school, teachers are very, very busy, right? Just like every other employee, but they can't really leave because they have students during the daytime. They can't just leave at a random time. So when you're booking a school, you need to find out what time does school actually start. Okay, school starts at 7:45. Great. And then what time do teachers arrive? Okay, because they're going to arrive at least 15 minutes before that. Some teachers are going to want to get that done beforehand, before school starts. Other teachers are going to want to do it on their plan time. Okay. It is extremely important, and I cannot emphasize this enough to you, that if you can get to school early, like 15 minutes before the teachers are there, or during that time, whenever before school starts, and you can greet them as they walk in the door, you can walk around to their classrooms to remind them that you're there, that will absolutely make a difference for your enrollment. You cannot just sit at a school in their break room and expect them to come to you. It will not happen. Okay, it's just not going to happen. They get 25 minutes total all day to go to the bathroom, check their mailbox, run copies, do whatever it is they need to do. And the priority is not to go see the insurance person, right? So you need to make sure that you are introducing yourself, creating that presence where people are like, okay, I do want to go and see her. Another thing that you need to ask about is, do they have specific plan times throughout the school day? Because I've been to some schools where teachers have different plan times throughout the day and they can come and see me throughout. And then other schools where everybody teaches the first solid 6 hours, and then the last hour of the day is like study hall, or the kids are released and the teachers are still working. And that's their plan time. Everybody has the same plan time at the same hour. And that means that I have 50 people coming in to talk to me at one time. There's no way that I can make that happen, right? So if that is the case for that school, I offer to pay for a floating substitute. Like, we pay that $50 or $60 or whatever it costs to have that substitute that comes in and can go and meet with the insurance person without stressing about their classes. Okay. Also, I send a time sign up slot sign up sheet, time slot sign up sheet. Okay. So that the staff can choose the best time. Okay. Usually they're like, the bookkeeper's like, yeah, please send that over. I'll show you let me show you what that looks like actually. So when I send that, here's what they get. It's a Google sheet so that the teachers can pop in and put their own times in. And then they can also print this, the bookkeeper can print this and post it so that those teachers can pop in and put their times in when they want to meet. Okay. So I'm happy to share that with you guys so that you can just duplicate it. I just used the same one. I just changed the name and make a new sheet. Okay. Last thing that you're going to say is that you're going to send them a flyer. And you want to ask them how they're going to get it out to their people. Are you going to put it in their paychecks? Are you going to put it on the break room door? Are you going to email it out? Because you want to make sure that you've solidified the importance that everybody knows we're coming. I don't know how long you guys have been here, but if you've gone to an enrollment where they're like, oh, I had no idea you were coming because the DM never sent out the information, or because we didn't send out a flyer, or whatever the case might be, you are not going to have anybody pull the trigger. The likelihood of that is going to be very, very low because they didn't have the time to prep and talk to their families, right? If they know that you're coming and they've seen the flyer and, oh, yeah, this is something that we do every single year, then it will be easier for them to pull that trigger. Okay. I have a little worksheet that I have people fill out on my team. I'm not sure if the other teams just have you guys write this down or put this in a sheet, but I want to know who you called, what's the franchise number, who did you book it with, what's the email that we're sending the flyers. Again, I want to know how many employees, okay? Because then I just ask like, hey, I want to make sure I have enough supplies there. If you volunteer to bring snacks or donuts or cookies or whatever, you want to make sure that you have enough for that. It's also a clue to me that like I just got one from Christy that she booked that we can only talk to them over their lunch period from 11 to 3 and there's 30 people. So I need to have 2 enrollers there. I know for sure I need to have 2 people there. I can't just send one person. There's no way she's going to get that done. So I need to know that. What's the date? What's the start time? And then I need to make sure that I'm arriving at least 15 minutes earlier than that. Confirm the address because sometimes they have multiple locations. And then any other notes like, am I bringing cookies? Am I bringing donuts? Things like that. Okay. If I'm doing a school, a couple other extra questions, right? Are you part of a district? If it's part of a district, are we booking multiple schools at a time? I would highly recommend doing that. In Illinois, a lot of the schools are like a single building, completely fine. If it's multiple buildings, though, you're going to want a day in each building because teachers won't come from one building to the next. Again, their time is very, very limited. So you want to make sure that you're being convenient for them. Then you're going to write that in there. What time did the teachers come? These are all broken down for you in the schools, like just gives you a little bit more information. Okay. Finally, whenever we're getting ready to send that flyer, again, every team has a different flyer. This is the one that we are using right now. We can modify it and change it, but it gives us the name of the staff, gives us our date and our time if we're bringing treats. It's reminding them that we have the no cost benefits and then the other benefits that we're entitled to, a little bit of description about those, and then some contact information. Okay, whatever flyer your team is using is perfectly fine. If you want a copy of this one, I don't have any problem with sending it to you. But when I send that, I'm also going to send my summary sheet. Okay, again, also available to you guys. There's a Missouri one and an Illinois one. Matt, if you'll remind me, we can come up with a Kansas one if the rates are completely different. I don't know if you guys just use the Missouri one because it doesn't say Missouri, but this one gives them a brief rundown of the policies and like little bullet points and then starting rates. I like to send that again because if they have that information ahead of time, then the families aren't totally caught off guard that we're going to be talking about those things. Okay. All of these things are really, really important when you're setting up an enrollment. When you get there, though, it doesn't stop there. When you get to the enrollment, you need to know how to proceed with that bookkeeper or the DM. Okay. So when you're booking an enrollment, you want to make sure that person's going to be there because you're the one who set it up. So if they're not going to be there, owner person or bookkeeper person, who's going to be my contact that day? If you're going to be out with surgery or something, who is in charge? Who is going to help get my next person? And then whenever you go in, of course, you're going to build rapport. Hey, I brought donuts. I'm really excited to see all your staff. Thank you so much. Now, were you able to print an updated roster for me or do you need to do that for me now? Because that way I can keep track of who I've seen and who we've missed. Anybody that we miss, we can call on the phone. You want to follow up. You need to make sure that you've spoken to everybody. This is especially important on an annual, right? You can also keep track of who else do we need to see today so that you're not sitting there wasting time. I think Bourbon's been very clear and we all know like it should take 15 to 20 minutes to enroll an employee. If you're sitting there for half an hour without talking to anybody, you need to get up and go get someone else. Either you're having the employee that you just sat with get someone, or your bookkeeper is getting someone, or you're getting up out of your chair so that you can go and find somebody to go get the next person. Don't sit and waste your time sitting for a whole day doing nothing is not making you any money, right? It would be better for you to be prospecting and closing a new case. So maximize your time, feel like your time is valuable so that you can get those people enrolled and then move on. Okay. There is an email that I send out whenever I do my enrollments. advertisements. And then I will send, obviously I modify it whenever I'm meeting with somebody, but this is a kind of an idea of what that looks like. Where is my stupid email? Sorry, I should have had that pulled up already. Oh, I bet it's in this one of my flyers. My bad. So it just basically says like, hey, I'm so excited. Thank you for booking your open enrollment period. Please reply back to this email to let me know that you got your flyers. You're going to post those flyers. Remember, everybody's entitled to those. Everybody needs to be there. Come. It's strongly encouraged, mandatory. Anybody that I miss, we can reach out over the phone. If possible, could someone print a staff list for me when I arrive? Or they can email it to you, right? I also have a quick story in there. Sometimes I delete that. Again, it depends on how insistent I need to be about speaking with these people, but you can lay on a little bit of thick pressure there. Like we had another business owner get sued by an employee claiming that he was discriminated against, that he didn't get those benefits because they didn't have a record of anybody coming in to speak with them. This, by you having them come and speak with me at their annual enrollment, even if it's to refuse the no cost benefits, that's covering your booty there, Mr. DM. We want to make sure that we're doing that for you. Okay. What questions can I answer for you guys on booking enrollments?
I have a question. So for
Can you guys hear Reggie? He's sitting right next to me. Okay, cool.
all right, so for mid-year, we're if they say we don't have anybody new because we're trying to see new employees, that's pretty much the reason why we're seeing them. What if they say we don't have anybody new?
Great question. So if it's 10 or less employees and they're saying, like, I don't have anybody new, we don't need you to come out, that's fine. Then we write that in our tracker and say, okay, perfect. Here's my contact information. I'm going to get your email so I can update that contact information just to note that we did speak with you. Okay. If it's more than 20 employees, I would double check that we got to see everybody at the annual. Okay. Because that is important, that we want to be able to see everybody. Again, mids are by choice. They have to speak with us in an annual though.
Got it.
Okay. So one thing that you want to double check before you call, if you're concerned about it, is sometimes there are franchises that eventually actually shift where they're doing their annual enrollment at their mid period of time. Like I closed it in the spring, but spring's really bad timing. So I speak with everybody in the fall. But in Epic, it says the fall is their mid, but we're acting like it's an annual.
Okay.
So hopefully your AD has that backup knowledge to say, like, no, we need to see them. The last time that anybody was in there was in October. We didn't go in April, so we have to go now. Okay, so that's one thing that you can look up to see when the last time somebody was there. And then if it's like been a year, you want to push. If it's a mid and we were just there 6 months ago, then you're not going to push.
Okay.
Right? Look, I could have turned your camera on because you're so cute. You could be in the video. There he is. Aww.